Okay, hi everyone. I tried to record this video live, but YouTube app was not working for me to do it. So I'm basically just gonna record this like it is a live. And maybe that's better because I wanted to talk about a very heavy topic. So happy Eclipse Day. It's August 12th, 2026. And the eclipse is happening in Leo tonight. And it's been a really heavy energy. And it's been bringing up a lot of thoughts for me. So this is the message that I want to express today, and I'm going to give a disclaimer because this conversation is probably going to get very heavy, a little bit dark, a little bit triggering. I'm going to cover topics around sex, sexuality, masculine, feminine energies, sexual abuse to the feminine from distorted masculine, feminine energies, and my personal stories with abuse and boundaries and the crossing of boundaries and the damage to the feminine from unintegrated false masculine energies that are very prevalent in our current society. And also my I don't even want to say thoughts, my knowings of what I think cause these distortions in the masculine feminine energies. So we're sitting in this beautiful bamboo alcove. I felt very protected in here, so I really wanted to I think I've been really vibing with bamboo. It's so beautiful how it's apparently really strong but also very flexible. And my doggy wants to say hi. This is Better. Hi, Better. Thank you. I think he's being here with me because he knows that we're gonna have a heavy conversation, and I really love him. And so I think I first want to start by saying, when I speak about male and female bodies, I mean, first of all, the physical vessel, which the soul is in, and its expression of masculine, feminine. And then you have the soul level of the masculine, feminine. And then you have internally, you have the masculine and the feminine within your person that should be integrated and in balance and union. And there are many versions in our current reality of distorted masculine energies, distorted feminine energies, overabundance of distorted masculine energies, overabundance of distorted feminine energies. And then I also wanted to say with sexuality, many of my friends are homosexuals. I have a lot of my friends growing up, like my female friends, they're lesbians. A lot of my male friends, they are gay. And so or bisexual, I'm really open to different expressions of sexuality because I do not necessarily believe in the rigidity of a binary system, because I think energy is fluid. I think our incarnations are fluid. I am currently incarnated in a female body. My female lineage, my matriarchal lineage, has had a long history of embodying very intense, very strong divine feminine energies. My grandmother was in Mexico, and my mother was first generation in the United States. So during my childhood, my grandma would take me often to Mexico to many, I don't even know the term for it. I think the best way I can kind of say is female spiritual healers type shaman, but I don't think that explains what it is. So throughout my childhood, I was very present with receiving lots of female spiritual guidance, protection, and ceremonies. And my grandmother and my female lineage on that side, my matriarchal lineage, has a lot of history of channeling, being energy healers, embodying divine feminine energies, and a lot of abuses that come with embodying a lot of divine feminine energies. And I think for me, a lot of the struggles and challenges I had growing up in a female body was not due to my mom's lack of protection. It was an overprotection during my early childhood formative years, combined with a lack of conversation about these topics, because they're difficult to navigate, to go into, and discuss, which is why I feel compelled to discuss these stories, for those very reasons, to help other women, to help my daughter, to help raise awareness of these things that are occurring and the abuses that are occurring, because I know that this is not just my personal story. This is a story for many women and many people embodying feminine energy. And this incarnation that I have is to help facilitate female energy, female incarnations, and help purify the damage that has been done to the feminine, which takes a lot of physical, real life examples so you understand the lesson and not just hypothesize of these things that are occurring. They are lived experiences of this physical incarnation and the damages that have done, and also the integration. Because you have to, I think, while you are incarnated, which, I mean, this is just my opinion. I mean, have to is very forceful masculine energy. I'm sorry, I had a lot of that energy programmed into me. So my language still is adapting to kind of the entire societal framework of this. So I can say it's important to learn that there's male, masculine, and feminine energies in our physical body. And it's very important to integrate the two, because there can be distortions. There can be distorted feminine and there can be distorted masculine, and both are not good. And so for me, it was an integration of masculine, feminine energies. That was my, I think, early 20s, and around the time I wrote my poetry book, when I was really working through this, because I went through the ringer of being an unintegrated feminine energy, wielding feminine energetic power, and triggering that. Because when you embody feminine energy, that sends triggers, because the feminine energy is receptive. It receives energy, and the masculine energy is penetrating. It's out there. It can go out there. And so this dysregulation and disharmonious part of the energy, was a big lesson for me. And so I think currently my husband, I spoke about in the last time I went live, about how I met my husband and how we previously met when we were both in our disintegrated. That's interesting. The word is disintegrated. Non-integrated former selves who were going in the traditional gender script. So he was being hyper masculine, going out for his job, his career, and I was drifting more chaotically in a chaotic feminine energy, receiving and having all of these things happening to me and not consciously co-creating my reality. So we met prior, then we both had life happen, an experience that caused a awakening of sorts that causes the reflection for integration of the energies. And then I believe that we started an alchemical marriage of the two, masculine, feminine, combined within the marriage, to then create outward into this conscious reality of the alchemical union and marriage. And that expression is our business, which I don't even want to say business because it's deeper than that, but that's what the current language of our society can call it. And so that is our deeper work. And he has been, this past year, and I think since we have been in a relationship, he has been experiencing my experience as a woman, where he is saying these things he's never experienced before, with the level of reaction that just existing in your life can cause. Because my existence can be triggering to people just for me living in my home. And I saw a video the other day that says when you have light within that projects out, and there are different things that will come to try to take that light. And I think that can be distorted masculine energies and other, maybe in different densities or frequencies that can come as well, that can then go into a person who does not have a strong spiritual protection, and that can project outwards. But that's a topic for a different day, and we're not going to go fully there today. So we're going to go back now to my first experience with sexual trauma. This is when I was 15. I went to Spain on my own for about a month, and I kind of did an exchange with a friend and his brother. So I went to his house for a month, and he went to my house in Wisconsin for a month. And growing up in Wisconsin, I was very sheltered and protected from a lot of these things, because my mom, she had experienced sexual abuse and trauma from her stepfather in her family, and my grandma had experienced sexual abuse and many attempts at, I'm not sure if I can say this word on there, but the R word, by priests, and just, again, so matriarchal lineage of a lot of sexual abuse and forceful sexual encounters. And so this is, for me, lineage of this, and that is why I why I feel compelled to deliver this message, because this is freeing my lineage from this, and my daughter, so she can know these things. So my mom was very protective of me in Wisconsin, and I think that's also why I grew up in Wisconsin, so she could protect me from sexual abuse, which I understand why she was very protective, and she did a great job in my formative early years. So then when I went to Spain, the parents were divorced, so I was staying with the mom. And then one evening, once my friend, he was back from my house, and then we were back together, he returned, and we had a weekend at his father's house. So that was different because it's a divorced family. And so one evening we went out, and it was really fun for me to go out in Spain when I was younger. That was the first time I had like a shot of alcohol, and he gave us absinthe, which I didn't really know the effects of absinthe and how strong it is. And that was quite normal for me to go out and have some drinks with a parent, because I grew up in Wisconsin, and in Wisconsin you can have drinks at an age at a bar before the legal drinking age when you're with your parents. So that was that was not suspect or anything to me, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. The dad is taking us out, we're exploring like Spanish nightlife, how cool is this? So we had agua de Valencia and a lot of absinthe, and then later that evening, I was kind of like throwing up at the house because I had a little too much, because I had no really experience with that. So I was throwing up. And I think I'm just going to pause for this moment, because I'm bringing this up because I'm writing an article for EV Magazine about the United States college hookup culture, and how it impacted me, how I participated in it, and how my lessons and integrations from this. But this article has had me, I have a piece of bamboo on me, that's so fun. This article has had me really going back into this time, and I've been feeling like a release of these toxins, or not toxins, but these toxic emotions that have been trapped in my physical body, and how it's so healing to speak about these things, because that shows the integration, and it helps other people heal from these experiences, because they will not break me. They can integrate and teach me, so I can help teach you, and we can move forward, and we can heal from these things. So the article of college hookup culture, that's like a little blurb, but then I realized there's this whole bigger theme, and it's still happening even today. So, but in a different level, because now it's happening within my business world versus just my physical world. So now it's expanding from beyond my physical self to the creations of that I am birthing and building and putting out into this current present moment and conscious reality. So we had the absinthe. I was throwing up. I was in the bathroom, and I remember very vividly seeing my friend's dad coming into the bathroom, and I was grateful. I was like, thank you, you're going to help me because I need some help. And I was hoping that he would help me like kind of get to the bedroom, and then I could just like fall asleep on my side properly. But that is not the case. He proceeded to take me onto the bathroom floor and perform oral sex on me. And I remember being very confused. I felt, first of all, I remember feeling ashamed because I had pubic hair, and I felt like, oh my gosh, I should change this. I felt like I did not ask for this. Why is this happening? And you kind of just disassociate. I think that was the first time I disassociated from my body, because you are so confused, and like you were trusting somebody, and it was just not a reality that you could fathom that was occurring to you. So I think to spiritually and emotionally save myself, my soul disassociated a little bit from my body. So you're kind of watching yourself happening, so you don't process the feeling like you are being completely violated. And I remember waking up the next morning and his girlfriend was there, and we had orange juice at breakfast. And you don't know what to do. You're looking at this person, they're making kind of gross gestures at you to remind you of what happened. And you have to be silent and stay silent. And then they have that sickness and that, I don't know what it is, that thrill that you cannot say anything. This man eventually died of a very painful cancer, I found out later on. But that's besides the point. I don't know if there's a correlation there. But I'm not gonna try to insinuate anything there either. But I'm just, that's just like what happened in his story. Because I didn't really speak up about it. I didn't really process it, but now I can see what was happening, because it's so confusing when you're 15 and it's a friend's father. And I know that this probably happens more often than is spoken about, which is not okay. So because of that, I ended up then later that year losing my virginity, because I decided that if I decide that I can have these encounters, then I don't have to feel that same way that someone else decided to violate me and make that decision for me. But of course, the person that I did lose my virginity to was dating at that time a different girl. And so she found out that happened, and then I had a falling out with a lot of the other girls in my school, because then it becomes your fault versus the other woman. And then the women start fighting each other over a man, which is very sad that is the case, because we all start competing with each other, because that's what we're trained to and how to behave, instead of coming together. And that's a different topic as well, about women coming together to talk about these things. That's why I'm talking about these things as well. So I had a lot of and then I went into the college time, which also you kind of have the same. I go deeper in my article about like with my boyfriend at the time there, and then what happened to me there, and so I'll save that from this video. But it was the same pattern of not wanting something to happen to you, so believing you are empowered, being proactive, making a decision that involves your sexuality and involves other people, and involves a gray area of if you are actually consenting to something or not, but you kind of think you are consenting because you think you are being proactive, but it's not necessarily something that you want to experience, but you think you want to experience. It's a very complicated subject, especially going public speaking about this. And there's a lot of gray areas, and a lot of them stem from my innocence and my boundaries of my innocence being violated, feeling a sense of violation, not being able to speak up about that sense of violation, having that deep shame of being violated, and then that shame internalizing and your self-worth diminishing because your voice gets suppressed, mocked, ridiculed, shamed when you speak up. And that's why I'm speaking up now, because I know more and more women speak up, and women who do speak up, it can become, and it has become, a sort of witch trial against the character and integrity of a person, instead of standing together with women and female energy and the abuses of female energy and the exploitation of female energy and the taking of female energy for extraction. And so this continued on the college experience, the hookup culture, and then I matured and started having more serious relationships. I had the drama with my husband and meeting him and all of these things. So my past was really complicated, and I've integrated that past, and it's part of who I am and what made me. And so when my husband and I went to Costa Rica, after we rekindled, we fell in love, I had like this moment where our souls merged and like came together, and I knew that he was the right person for me. We went to Costa Rica and we were having so much fun. We went so deep into studying of consciousness and astrology and nature and our physical reality and the shadow integration and hermetic principles and like the microcosm, the macrocosm, because I was already into Jung, I was into archetypes, I was into all of these things. I've had a life, like my lifetime was kind of always integrating with the more unseen forces that shape our reality. And so we were going really deep in that, and it was really fun for him because he had never explored these topics, but they really resonated and they spoke to him. And while we were living there, we were renting a little house, but it was kind of like a duplex house where there was our unit was on the top, and then we had a person living below us. And he was clearly hiding from something. He was from New York, he was living in Costa Rica, he was older, and he was supposedly a spiritual healer, and we didn't really want to engage in his spiritual healings or really engage with him. And he kind of I think took that a little personally, that we did not, like, we kind of kept a boundary and we didn't really want to really get to know him that well while he kept trying to offer us spiritual healings, and we just kind of politely declined. And it was windy there, like it's windy right now. And so sometimes our porch furniture would fall over in the wind, and that would upset him. And of course it would get windy often, so our porch furniture would fall and kind of blow across the floor, and he would get really mad at that. And I think also later in hindsight I realized we were really worried about EMFs, so we would turn off our Wi-Fi router before we would go to bed so we wouldn't have the Wi-Fi zapping us. And I think I didn't know until after we moved out that it also connected to his Wi-Fi router, so we were like shutting off his internet, but I didn't know that we were doing that. So I think he thought we were like messing with him and turning off his internet and like deliberately knocking down furniture just to mess with him, because I think some people get really inside their own heads and they think everything that is happening to them is someone deliberately trying to annoy them, and they react and become emotional to something they believe is occurring and a slight that they perceive is happening. So then they escalate from what they created in their minds as the case that was literally just wind knocking over a chair. So this man, he reached, I think, his breaking point, because my husband and I were dancing one day. We were so happy. It was like one of those really joyful days. We were dancing, we were having fun, we were enjoying life. We were living life. I was not thinking about a person below me, which maybe that's rude, because I was living my life, enjoying my life, dancing midday. It was not like at 4 a.m. It was like noon. We were dancing to a song. We were picking things up. It was like you're vibing. I mean, it wasn't super loud. It was like a normal volume thing. And he snapped. he came up, he threatened, he said that I have killed people before and I wouldn't hesitate to do that again. I have a video of him, and then I saw him, so now I had to run. I was shaking because I can feel the energy, I can feel his anger coming at me, so I was shaking. I was like locking the doors and our windows, and so I have a video of him while we're locking the doors and windows, trying to rattle the doors open, break in, while he's like yelling how he's like trained in like military to kill people really effectively. And that was like quite scary, quite traumatizing, because we were in Costa Rica, and you do hear stories in Costa Rica of people who just kind of like disappear. And I was not ready to be one of those stories. And we had a neighbor, because it was kind of in it was where we were living was like a compound, not a compound, but it was also a resort, like for people, like hotel guests to stay. So, and there was other people who were living long term, so it was a little mini community there with like people, so that was quite safe to have like social control. So we had a neighbor who had to come and intervene and like basically stop this guy from like trying to kill us, and he had to interrupt, and so he stopped it, which was really I'm really grateful for that man. And then we told our landlord and showed the video, because the landlord also lived there as well. And this neighbor, we found out from the landlord, was not paying his rent. He had a lot of complaints from people on the facility for that he would be walking around naked while children were around, and had like some seedy things that were happening. But the landlord didn't think that that was enough to be able to evict him. So my husband and I decided, okay, we do not want to keep living above this man that wants to murder us, so we will move. And it's kind of like, I think that was a smart choice. I kind of say this laughing because I don't know how to deal with that emotion of like, I'm very proud of ourselves for, yeah, you see that's an uncomfortable laugh. I'm proud of ourselves for moving because it was inconvenient, but I don't really want to live above someone that wants to murder me. So we found a new place to live in Costa Rica. And that's the pattern I think has been occurring now since Costa Rica, since that moment until now, this moment. Like my existence with my husband is very upsetting to a person in a very disgruntled masculine energy that believes the entire world needs to revolve around them and their emotional dysregulation, and anything they perceive as annoying, triggering, upsetting, that they can dominate and dictate what needs to occur. Now, I have my theories of where I think this distortion occurs from, which maybe I'll go into this deeper, because that's probably a controversial opinion, and I want to go there, but we'll see if this conversation unfolds into that, because right now I'm sharing the stories. So we moved to another place, and it was actually better. So it was a better place to live. It was so beautiful. It was on a ley line, which was really cool, in Costa Rica, on top of a mountain. So we had this beautiful panoramic view of like the ocean. It was a great climate. We had mango trees. We had this hammock. I wrote a poem. I remember it was about like the hammock, because it was like, it's like good when your whole day is around like philosophizing, watching the stars, watching the alignments. The 2020 alignments were so cool, with like these conjunctions, and watching these alignments and like really connecting to nature. We had an outside kitchen. It was so nice. But this was also kind of a compound. We had an American lady who was kind of stuck there from her personal dramas, which, bless her, I really loved her. She was going through a lot of lessons herself, and she was older, really beautiful woman. She's still alive. Now I want to call her later today, because I'm thinking about her. I really love her. And so we had her. We had another couple who was renting a house there. There was also there was a main house and also guest houses, little cabinas. So we rented a cabina, And then our real estate agent was living there as well because she liked us, and we told her, hey, we need a place to live. This like guy wants to murder us. Can you help us? And of course she helped us out. I really love her as well. She just had a baby, and I'm really happy for her, and I really love them. And I should also call them as well tonight. So they were living there in a cabina, and then we had another couple that was living there in a cabina from Canada, and they were like of the boomer generation, and I think they were there for different purposes than my husband and I were there to be in. They were there because it was their life's dream to go to Costa Rica. They had saved money, they had been successful in Canada. They had this kind of air of superiority that I think comes from men and people of that generation, where they think they worked really hard, they have money. In Costa Rica, they felt even more superior because of the money that they had accumulated and their life's experiences that they had had. So they had this air of entitlement, and they were living in a different cabina. And they started kind of taking over the property from the owner of the property. Like they started kind of making it their own, which was that you could tell the lady who owned the property, she was bothered, but she was really sweet and kind and didn't want to confront it and say anything from like this man that was there. And I do not hate men. I really don't. I love men, but I don't like this non-integrated male energy. I don't like it because it's gone very far. So there's no hate here, but there is a realization that there's a lot of trauma happening in the world from this inauthentic expression of masculine energy. There's also a lot of damage happening from an inauthentic expression of feminine energy. So both parties are responsible for their inauthentic expression, because I do think our current society has not developed a language to discuss these topics because it's a very deep, complex topic to discuss. Because when you are kept in a disintegrated state of inauthentic expressions of male and female energy, you are reactive, you are easily manipulated, you are easily steered and guided because your reactions are predictable, because they are coming from a reaction that is less developed. It is like my toddler. My toddler has predictable reactions for when something does not go his way. He gets upset, he gets angry, he throws a fit, he wants it to be his way, and there's not really reasoning that you can give him because he is distraught, which I really try to teach him to process and feel his emotions, never shame him for feeling his emotions, and he is allowed to feel his emotions so he understands he can express his emotions and he will not be immediately shamed, and he can then learn his emotions happen and how to integrate them. That's also a different, what is that in my hair, some leaf? That's also a different conversation for a different day, but it's predictable reactions. And this man, he had a kitchen, and we had our outdoor kitchen, and the lady left to go back to the US because she was having her mother was getting sick, so she had to go with her sick mother, and then left us all there. So she trusted us all on her property to kind of deal with our cabinas, because it's kind of like you're there with your cabinas. And she was really thoughtful, and she had bought us propane tanks for the kitchen, and she told us specifically, this is your propane tank for the kitchen so you can cook while I'm gone, because she had handled the delivery of the propane tanks because we had an outdoor kitchen and we cooked on a gas stove with a propane tank. And then the other couple there, the Canadian couple, they had, because their cabina was better, they had their own private propane tank kitchen, so my husband and I kind of used the communal outdoor kitchen that was also for us to use, but anyone could use the communal outdoor kitchen. And then one day I see this man, because we didn't really we also kind of just we were courteous, kind. You would say hello in passing, but it's not like you want to have a deep conversation with the neighbors, but you're not overtly hostile. You just are a little more distant, where you don't want to give your entire life story to them or really like hang out with them. And so I see this guy, and he's storming over to the communal kitchen, which he never does. He comes over, he takes the propane tank, takes it, so our kitchen is without a propane tank, hops on over, and he's trying to install the propane tank in his kitchen because his is out. And so of course I'm not happy, because that's how we cook, and this is the communal kitchen. So I go over there and I say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you taking our propane tank? That's everybody's propane tank. The lady told us, she even specifically told us, this is a propane tank for this kitchen, for you, because I wanted you to be careful, or I wanted to look out for you. And I gave him a phone number for the guy if he runs out to get his own propane tank. So she had told me this. I had this knowledge that this man was clearly capable of calling the propane tank delivery person to deliver the propane tank. And then instead of doing that, he's taking our propane tank. And I was told that that's our propane tank because she was very considerate and looking out for us. So I say, hey, you're taking our propane tank. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, now you're going to talk to me. You should be ashamed of yourself for how you behave. So he's trying to shame me because he is in the wrong. He is taking our propane tank that we have permission. And I said, you can get your own propane tank. Why are you taking our propane tank? And then just completely gets upset about these things about propane tanks, and how it's my fault. I should be ashamed that I am standing up for the communal propane tank so I can cook and have meals in Costa Rica. So that's just another pattern of this behavior. So then we can fast forward. I mean, I'm just sharing examples and stories of like how this happens, especially with the older group. It's also, I don't have anything against different ages, but I do think men in these older groups, they have a different way of perceiving reality, or it was more just like what the women were like what they allowed how these men to behave. So they kind of had nobody kind of telling them that their behaviors are inappropriate and just not okay. So I don't know, I kind of feel for the ladies of these generations, because they had to deal with men behaving this way. Like my mom as well, she had to deal with men kind of with these behaviors that are not okay, that they could just get away with and be okay with. And so we can go back to the US now. The reason we left our house in Wisconsin was a couple of reasons. One, I think the biggest trigger was our neighbor. They would spray their lawn with pesticides, which was kind of like not really okay, but I can't tell them what they can do with their lawn. But the thing was, the person who sprayed the pesticides, they went into our yard, and then my cat got out the same day that happened, and my cat was not an outside cat there, and he went out for, I kid you not, 2 minutes. I think he went out, walked, rolled, went back in the house. And the next day we had to watch him die a very painful death, which was horrifying. I was devastated. I was so sad because this cat was only, I think, like 2 years old. I really love that cat. And so I had to watch my cat die a very slow, painful death from organ failure, and I couldn't do anything about it just from him going outside from these chemicals. And I was also pregnant, and being pregnant with these chemicals is, like, I mean, if it, like, it's just upsetting. So I really don't like lawns and the spraying of pesticides on lawns. I've made a lot of content about lawns while I was living in the US, and so that triggered me and my husband. It was May when that happened, so it was like the first time when the spraying of the lawns happened. So we wanted to participate in No Mow May, because we really were feeling for the bees and the dandelions and giving the bees something to pollinate. So our grass got a little bit longer in No Mow May, and this upset, we had in our town a weed commissioner, and he was also an older man who was very upset and would come to our yard and yell at us repeatedly for how horrible people we are, that we are participating in No Mow May. And then he CC'd like the sheriff of our town about our lawn, and then they were threatening to mow our lawn. So eventually just like mowed our lawn. But it's just strange that a lawn can be so upsetting for just a month that it gets like a little long. And then they say these things like, oh, there could be rats living in the grass or something. So of course there's some justification for it. But I just find it strange that it's normalized that monoculture pesticide lawn is the norm, and that deviation from the norm, which is more in accordance with like how an ecosystem is, because we lived in an environment where it's grassland prairie. So I mean, even having longer grass in the yard was like a prairie. And that's just so upsetting and so horrible and just so wrong. And I should be so ashamed that I was having a grassland prairie with some wildflowers. And it's just unacceptable, because it wasn't even a homeowners association. I wouldn't live somewhere with a homeowners association, because I think I really feel for people who have to deal with homeowners associations, because kind of the same energy of things that deviate from someone's opinion of how they think something should be is wrong, and then you get punished for that thing because in their perception that triggers them for it being wrong, and you are wrong and shamed. Which I think this comes from, okay, maybe I'm gonna go here, so we'll see. I think this comes from kind of monotheism and having one deity, masculine deity in the sky dictating what is right and what is wrong. And everything that is against what the sky deity dictates is right and what is wrong is, then it becomes kind of like this binary system of right and wrong. And then you have some authority, e.g. sky deity, who says this is right and this is wrong. And therefore, and this is thousands of years of societal and cultural training of this type of thinking. And so this type of thinking produces, I think, kind of why we have such a division in society, because we have this right and wrong, this is good, this is bad, this is that, this is done. This is what I believe in. Everything that's against what I believe in is then like I cannot go there because this is wrong. And that eliminates nuance, which is why this conversation is very probably radical and difficult for me to have, because I'm covering a lot of topics that I'm fluid with how they are, because that is how I am. I am fluid, I am feminine, I am flowing, I am water sign dominant. I flow. I have nuance. I love nuance. I love these things. I love fluidity, which is funny because I'm talking about masculine feminine energy, because that is a natural law. There is the law of like masculine feminine energy. I'm not saying that is the law of the incarnated body, but there are these polarities of energy. And these polarities of energy are different from the physical body, because there is the receiving and the giving. Yin yang. So, weed commissioner. And we also had a lot of things like we were doing, so we had that. We had the cat dying, so that was quite a strong catalyst. And we also we were doing a lot of housework, which I have videos on this channel about doing our housework. And we had to rent a lift for the contractors to get up to the roof and do these things and paint and repair wood rot. And the lift that we had rented was like not working. It would get stuck on the top setting, and our contractors would get stuck in the lift and have to be stuck there for time. And we were paying the contractors hourly. So it's kind of like they felt like, hey, we're stuck in this lift. You're also paying to rent this lift. And like they were annoyed because they were getting stuck in a lift. It's also just like really not safe. Like really not safe. And I would tell them like, don't go up in that lift. Like I know you want to go in that lift, but I don't trust this lift. Like, I don't want you to, like, get stuck and die in this lift. That's like, you have kids. Like, don't do this. And because they were like, and we told the man who rented us the lift, like, hey, your lift is not working. Can you please, like, fix this? And he says it's not his responsibility to fix his lift. And then one day I saw out my window the guy who rented the lift, and he was going up and down the lift with another guy. So I'm like, oh, it's great. This guy is, like, fixing the lift. I'm so happy. He's, like, coming to repair. He's bringing a repairman. Lovely. I'm so happy he listened, and he's, like, bringing a lift. No, he was not fixing the lift. He was finding someone from Craigslist to buy the lift. And so he was doing a sales demonstration in my backyard to sell this broken lift. And so I go out there and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, who are you? What are you doing here? I'm like, you're in my backyard. Or actually, no, I didn't even ask him, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, are you here to repair the lift? And he got mad at me because I was talking about repairing the lift, and I was interrupting his sales pitch because he was trying to pass this broken lift onto someone else to escape all responsibility. And then he gets mad at me, and he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, what are you doing here? You're in my backyard. You are in my backyard, in my lawn, going up and down in this lift. I thought it was being repaired, so I was happy. And then he's trying to scold me for wondering why he's in my yard selling a lift to a strange person that I don't know. I have kids. And, like, if there's someone in your backyard and they're doing, like, going up and down in machinery, I feel quite reasonable to ask why. But these people, they make you seem like it's the craziest thing in the world that you are wondering why they are in your yard using their lift. And then he went, like, eventually he brought a second lift, and then that one also was not working, and he wanted to charge us for the 2 lifts that were not working because it's not his responsibility as the person who owns the lift to maintain and provide a working lift. That was his logic. So we had this guy who was also, like, upset. And then we also had our backyard neighbor who multiple times, I had him on camera, I had him, like, doing this. He would go into our driveway, because our driveway kind of shot out this way, and his house was here. And then our driveway looped around, and it was kind of right up on his property line. So he would like to use our driveway. He would smoke cigarettes on there. He would push his leaves onto our driveway, like, angrily. I have that also on video of him angrily, like, brushing leaves onto my driveway. So eventually I was kind of like, why is this man always on our property? That's very strange, because I give people the benefit of the doubt. And so we hired what are they called, a surveyor. We hired a surveyor because we had this property and we had no idea, like, where our property line actually went, because they just said, oh, around the driveway here. So we surveyed, and we had the sticks in the ground. And then this day we had it surveyed, he comes at us like, can you explain what's going on with these sticks? Why would you do this? Like, what is wrong with you? So he's blaming us for trying to know where our property was, because I wanted to genuinely know where my property was. And then we said, like, hey, here's the line. Can you also please stop going on our driveway? And then he was mad that we didn't want him on our driveway. And I was a little scared of this guy, because I remember one time my dog that my mom later had, I was walking my dog because he had to, like, go to the bathroom at, like, 1 a.m, and he was peeing, and it's kind of dark, and then all of a sudden he, like, feels something, and then I, like, turn around, and by my garage I see, like, the light of a cigarette watching me, which was really effing creepy. And then I just remember being creeped out, because, like, why was he standing in our driveway? Because you could kind of see our bedroom window from our garage. I think a child is upset, so I might have to stop this video. So you could kind of, it was just weird. And then he would just, like, and then I later put, like, security cameras up by our, like, front door, and he would, like, look through the window of our front door. So we had kind of these, like, a combination of things to kind of activate us thinking like, this is just strange. We have a lot of like strange people here. We also had people like just ask us who lived in that town, like, what room do you sit at and in nighttime? Like, where are you sitting in your house? So it was just kind of, it was just overall strange. So and then we were also working with our pop-up. So we had just returned from our pop-up and we wanted to try out San Francisco. So we're like, okay, let's move. Clearly our existence is upsetting a lot of people. It's time to go. And so we went to San Francisco, and I shared also on this channel some of the drama with San Francisco that was with women, and there was also threats to my family because I've had so many threats to my family. So we just moved, and then we had I was feeling not well, and the landlady there, she was also not feeling well, and she was very sick and having to go to lots of treatments. And then I was starting to pick up like kind of some of the similar symptoms as her, and I'm very sensitive to my environment. Oh my gosh, there's something moving. Is there a mouse? And so eventually we had the apartment tested, and it had black mold. It tested positive for that. And so my symptoms kind of coincided with black mold, where all of a sudden you're exhausted, you feel anxious, like memory is like not functioning properly. And I have my children there, so I'm like, hey, there's black mold here. Can we please fix this? Like, can we remediate it? I think that's the proper term. And they didn't want to hear it. They didn't believe me. They thought the mold report was fake. It was my fault for bringing it up. There's an animal moving. A bunch of these things, and it's just like really, really frustrating to me, because you genuinely go in believing the best in people and the situation, and that people would genuinely care. And I just posted yesterday on TikTok, like, kind of, because it's like I genuinely care about things, and I have these traits that apparently are like thinking of improvement, thinking of how to make something better, caring about something, thinking about how would I make this, how would I do it, and then people not doing it that way how I would do it, which I think makes me a gifted designer. That's like what ChatGPT basically kind of explained. And so I put this like list for people, because if anyone else has these similar character traits, they are not your problem. You are actually like a very gifted designer, and you're supposed to design something better, because in your mind and how you see how things should be, that is what you are trying to design to get out and create in the world that you are creating. And that is the world that I'm creating, this world where these buildings and society is not so reactive and actually wants to improve something, and doesn't see pointing out these areas to improve as a personal attack, as more like, hey, how can we collaborate, come together if we are both getting sick here, and move forward and actually all be healthier, happier, thriving, and improving. And that's horrible. And then when you point that out, it's your problem, because the person doesn't hear the genuine concern, and just hears, I don't know what they hear. It falls onto some density blocking from clicking to hear the message, which is why I feel like I have to be very careful when I do these videos as well, because I know I'm speaking from a very clear, very present state, but some of these topics are so difficult for people to comprehend, because in this very binary, very rigid framework of most people's egoic mind, they cannot go into these topics, which is why I want to speak about them, and I want to help people. So if you resonate with this message, I think it's very cool that we can talk about these things. And why I'm talking about these, because these things were never spoken about for me growing up, and I wish I had someone to share these things with me to help me navigate life, because there are so many challenges and obstacles to overcome. And I don't see these, I have no hard feelings for these people. I feel like they are very beautiful learnings. They are patterns that kept occurring, so it's something that was not integrated in my own shadow that was showing me these patterns, and like I said, it's still happening now. So now I'm working on my business, and I am a immigrant, a woman, starting and my business was started in the US, but I am expanding my business internationally in a different city, growing it and dealing with other people's neglect, other people's issues, other people's lack of care. And I am putting everything out there. I am putting my heart, my soul, my life, my money, my entire creative energy into my business, into growing my business, into expanding my business, into sending my message. And we rent this location, which I think is the most beautiful, lovely, iconic location for my business, for the showroom. I'm so happy. We rent it, and I had issues with the movers. So I first had to deal with the lack of care, the lack of proper service for the movers, putting things on the wrong floor. So I couldn't properly set up my showroom. First of all, it was winter as well, so I couldn't, because things were on the wrong floor. And also, that was where I also had to put like the things for my household, because our apartment we were renting was furnished. So we had our furniture that we brought with, so we put it in the showroom, and it was put on the wrong floor. So I had that difficulty of figuring out, like, managing these movers, which they also just did not want to listen to me, because they said, oh, I don't want to take instructions from a woman. Oh, it's a foreign woman. I don't want to listen to where she wants to put her things. So you experience these grumbly people who did not get their permit properly. So they were mad that they had not organized things properly. And then, of course, it's my fault that I want to get my items delivered. I want them delivered where I want them. And I expect that because I initiated a service, such as moving, that the things would be delivered because it was a full service move, and they promised where things would be, they would be delivered how you want them to be delivered, and then they were not. And then you have to assert yourself constantly, especially as a woman in business. You have to assert yourself. But I refuse to behave masculine. I will assert myself in a feminine way. I'm very happy I work with my husband, because he can assert himself in a masculine way and have these conversations. Because if I have the conversation, then I will just be ridiculed, humiliated, belittled, mocked, and not listened to, which is fascinating. And so we dealt with the drama of the moving, and then I have to unpack things. And around this time, when I'm unpacking, it starts to become spring in the Netherlands. And when we initially rented our location, there was some major repair red flags that we had stated when we were signing the contract that needed to be repaired as part of like the conditions. And they said that would happen in spring. So spring comes around, and we are waiting for proactive, knowing that like the building rain leaks in and goes down the floors, which I don't think that's acceptable for a building that rain comes in, especially if you have your items there and your business, and also just for the integrity of the building, because water damage is really not good to have in a building. And this building is iconic. I think it symbolizes the city of Amsterdam. It almost symbolizes the Netherlands, which is why I was so happy to be able to work with this building to create a beautiful composition with my design work, combining with the city, combining with like all of the work that had been done in generations prior to make a beautiful beacon of beauty and design and art. And then you point out that, okay, so my husband, we commissioned a beautiful mosaic bench, and I put it outside because I wanted people to be able to sit on this bench, to have a place to sit in Amsterdam, which is so hard to find a place to sit in Amsterdam because people don't want people to sit in the bench. They're hostile towards tourism. And I thought, hey, I will make a bench for people to sit here and eat their fabelfriet. And so I put a bench, and then my husband, he's in the building. He's seeing these things. He finds a piece of concrete from the facade, like this size, We have a picture. It's off the building. It's in his hand. And you look down in the photo and you see the bench. And I'm just, I don't know what the right word is for this. It's just disappointed. Disappointed. Because I am thinking about this person sitting on the bench enjoying the canal view. And then what, a piece of my building, not even my building, a piece of the building that my brand is in, that I represent, could potentially fall on their heads, and then they could die or get a concussion or at least be damaged. And we raised this awareness, this was in April, spring still, that the facade is crumbling, and then they just say, yeah, we'll get around to it. The facade is crumbling. There's water coming in among things, and then it's just not listened to. Which deeply upsets me because I love these buildings. I love how beautiful they are. They are monumental buildings. It's a protected heritage site. And the fact that someone does not want to fix it, mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing to me. So as you keep saying, and you're paying rent, and you're saying, please fix these things, because it's like for everybody to fix this, for like the city. And then on top of that, we have the moths that come in. So I see moths, and then so there's water coming in, there's moths, the building's crumbling. I'm trying to get my showroom set up and for designing, and I work with wools. This is alpaca and natural materials. My designing is based off of wool, and one of the biggest things that come for wool are moths. And so it's just everything is kind of coming together, and you're trying to send a message to like say, hey, come fix this. And then it's just ignored, and you get told, don't tell me how to manage my buildings. I know more than you. Who do you think you are? You cannot tell me what to do. Well, it's falling apart around you. You're putting your life and your passion and all of your work into trying to make this a beautiful experience for people. But then I cannot have people having a beautiful experience if there's rain coming in. It's potentially hazardous from the crumbling facade. I want an expert to come look at it to see if the integrity of the building's even safe, and then they don't even listen to you. So now I'm in this situation where because we wanted to send a message, so we stopped paying rent for the month of July and now August because it's not taken care of, because we're like, hey, we will pay the rent once we have a proposal for how we can repair this building, at least the facade. Please, you can go, you can see the building, you can see the facade, you can see it's crumbling. For the sake of this building, look at it and fix it. For the sake of the people to enjoy Amsterdam and the Netherlands, look at this building and fix it. Like, this is not just about me. This is not just about the business. It's not just about the money. This is about the integrity of this beautiful building that you have decided to purchase, to take on that responsibility. And then it's just, no, you can't tell me what to do. You don't know. You're in a different world. You don't know. And so then he calls the landlord for where my family lives, and he's trying to like figure out where we live, and he's now coming, like he's trying to find where we live, which is scary. Why does he need to know where my personal life, where we live, when this is the business and that needs to happen? And the other day he broke into the building. 2 days ago he broke into the building, and there's still no discussion about fixing the building. It's a discussion about how we have to just pay him. And I'm genuinely scared. I have a extensive history of people breaking in, threatening to kill me for standing up for what I believe in. And I'm genuinely really scared. I don't know what to do. Like, right now I currently have, because of the damage to the building, I've set up the building to be an art gallery with some of the art that we've commissioned to at least expose the artist to people, and people can enjoy looking at the art, because that's what I really see for the building, to build like a living street art gallery for people to experience while they're in Amsterdam, because I think that's like I feel like that's like my gift to provide to the city in this beautiful area. And I am being bullied, intimidated, harassed, insulted, harmed from this, because these people make it only about the money. I think they feel wronged, so because they're upset because they're not getting what they want. But for me, that feels like we've been wanting for at least 9 months to have some discussion, some incentive of a repair happening, something to show that we are not going to be in this like crumbly, potentially unsafe building. And then I can confidently have people come over. I was going to have someone come live in this building, and he was going to make his life in Amsterdam. And then he was staying in the building, and he was saying, hey, I can't shower, the hot water doesn't work, this doesn't work. And so we were trying to figure out how to make that work so he could come and live there. I had to disappoint him by saying, like, hey, no one's coming to fix this. No one's coming to fix this. You get bullied, you get silenced, you get intimidated, you get harassed. They break in just because you are not doing what they want you to do, but then they are not fulfilling an obligation. So I think it's kind of a moral duty to stand up to yourself. And it's really challenging when you care, because I think currently a lot of people who are successful, it's from a lack of care. And I'm building success through care, through community, through making things better, from going into a building and improving it so it can be preserved and it can be sustainable. That is what my work is. My work is protecting women, empowering women, and making sure that beautiful things are sustainable. And all of this goes against what I believe in. And it's just, it's horrifying to me. It's horrifying, it's upsetting. It reminds me of all of these other times when you're trying to live and people come across your boundary and basically penetrate you because they're upset and they want something. And you're vulnerable and you are in a subordinate position and you are taking the brunt of their neglect, their desires, their anger, and they come at you for that. And if you point it out, you have to be silenced. Because I know these things are not just me. I know these things happen on a much greater, probably much more horrible scale. I've read about the files and the amount of people who spoke up and the amount of silencing that happens. And it's just sickening. It's sickening. So maybe this is good that this is not live, but I don't know a solution. creating beautiful worlds, speaking up when things are not okay. But we're currently in a distorted, masculine, authoritarian society. And we'll see where it ends up.